this whole movie has been kind of like my expectations were a little too high. Hey guys, welcome back. My name's Ben. If you're new here, I love talking about film, I love talking about TV, and I love talking about the entertainment business. I work in it, so I think I provide kind of a cool little perspective into it. I'm brand new at this altogether. This is going to be my first long form review, so let me know how I did. And also, if anyone watched that bear video I just did, I got like 150 plus views, which I've never gotten that before. It sounds a little pathetic to say it out loud, but thank you so much if you did watch it. If you haven't watched it, cool. You don't need to, but you can. Let's get into the Maxine review, huh? So first off, I think that we should say what I liked about this trilogy to begin with before we even get to Maxine. I liked X. I didn't love it. I thought it was a good movie, not great. And Pearl, I really loved. So I was really excited to see how Maxine would go. And I did enjoy Maxine quite a bit. I didn't hate it. I'm seeing a lot of hate online about it. And I think most of it's just comparing everything from the trilogy, which is really hard to do. I was actually really surprised with just how connected this movie was back to X. I know I sound kind of dumb because it's a trilogy right now, but like, let me explain. So like, if you watch Pearl, you can watch Pearl without watching X and it'll be still a great movie. But like, you know, it's better if you watch X, obviously, because, you know, it adds to it. But Pearl is very siloed off. It's a very siloed off prequel to where you don't really need to have much context. And I was kind of hoping the same for Maxine. I was kind of hoping that it was going to be a siloed off movie where you don't need to know anything from the first movie, which is just kind of an unrealistic expectation. That's what I was expecting, not what I got, which is fine. I think this whole movie is very like expectations were different than what was delivered, and that is okay. It's all right. I'm wondering how this movie's going to feel in a few months after I know what it was and can judge it from there. But you really do need to watch X before you watch Maxine in this, and that's fine. It's connected a lot more than I thought it would. But as a movie itself, it was good. It was fine. I enjoyed it quite a bit. Story-wise, there were a few clunky parts. I enjoyed most of the narrative, most of like the main parts of it, but every now and then it would just kind of pull me out, and I think it was more from like the pacing of certain subplots. And that mostly has to deal with like all the Kevin Bacon stuff. Like, even though that part was connected to the film and the plot overall, it felt very disconnected for me. Like, it took a lot away from the mystery killer. It took a lot away from like, why is everyone so concerned about Kevin Bacon when there's a bigger thing going on? And I just, you know, it was just felt off to me. I don't know, like a lot of his scenes just didn't feel like a big deal, especially when she like kills him in the end. It was like, oh, there's a whole lot more to the story that Maxine knows about. Like, she knows he was hired, and it just felt like she won there, and then it takes her a little bit to realize like, oh, she didn't and she needs to help. So a lot of it kind of just felt kind of off, where I really liked the main stuff with the killer and Maxine going through the acting part of her movie, but any part where Kevin Bacon kind of came in, it felt just a little off to me. It almost felt like they got Kevin Bacon because they're like, oh, you know, he was in Friday the 13th, he was big and Footloose, let's get a big 80s star, and they like expanded his character. That's just what it felt like. I doubt that was actually what happened, but that's what it felt like. The whole chase sequence through the Universal backlot too just felt like a little Wile E. Coyote Looney Tunesy. Like, I don't know if it wasn't just shot well or edited well. Maybe they were trying to like mimic some like running scenes from the 80s from like different horror movies. It just felt a little long to me and like a little wacky, but whatever. It was fine. I didn't have a huge deal with it. After thinking about it, I was like, man, that was kind of a long scene, but regardless, it was fine. I'm just nitpicking at this point. And it kind of felt similar with some of the scenes with Elizabeth Debicki. I enjoyed her. I heard some comments say that she was like kind of like Greta Gerwig. She was trying to be Greta Gerwig, and I don't think she was. Some of her dialogue for me was a little too on the nose, but it was also very thematically okay. It connected it very well to X, and it connected very well to Pearl about, you know, being a star and fame and doing whatever you can to get where you want. And I don't think that without her lines there and her character that it would have been connected as well as it did. And so I enjoyed that. One little nitpicky thing that I just hate about these movies sometimes is like, there's this one scene where Maxine is late to the set, and then all of a sudden like the director's like, don't give me an excuse for why you're late. And it's like, you have to throw out a lot of like reality in your mind to just be like, no, Maxine would for sure be like, oh, my friends are getting murdered, like of course I'm late, like, you know. And so I just hated that like little part. I kind of would have preferred if Maxine just kind of disregarded everything and was like intentionally hiding stuff because she didn't want to like throw away this opportunity that she just got. But so yeah, it was just a little nitpicky. The ending part I really enjoyed. I really like how it connected back to X. I really like how, you know, the father came back into it, And I really liked how they continued this thing about fame and infamy and using like Hollywood to like showcase that. Like Maxine's trying to use Hollywood for her fame, while her father is trying to use fame to like get all these people out of porn and out of Hollywood. And so I really like how those were connected quite a bit. The whole ending part with her on the red carpet, I kind of wish that was real. I read earlier that that was actually just a dream sequence, and I could view it as either it was a dream or it was actually real. It could have gone either way for me. I'm not really sure what to, understand about it. But for that, it just felt it edited kind of weird, and it wasn't really presented as a full-on, it's a dream sequence, but it wasn't full-on, felt like it was real life either. It just felt kind of weird, and it kind of like took me out of it just because like the pacing was a little off. But the ending itself, I thought was really good. I really liked how, it's all about connecting it back to X and Pearl. And so I think that's where this movie really shines thematically, is like connecting it back to X and Pearl, about wanting to be a star, about wanting to do anything and everything it takes to get where you want to be, is really, really great. It really showcased this film's strengths. Even though there are a lot of faults in my opinion, the whole thematic element in watching this all into one trilogy works really, really well. I thought the cop storyline was a little weird. Like, they felt kind of similar to the Kevin Bacon thing. Like, they were part of it, but they weren't part of it. They were just kind of showed up when it was kind of convenient for them. And like, especially when at the very end, like Bobby Cannavale just kind of dies, and then Michelle Monaghan just has like a cross through her eye, and then we just never hear from her again. It was okay, not great, but not bad. It was fine. I didn't have a really big issue with it. Acting wise, I thought it was like fine. It did well. Like, the problem is that it's not nearly on the same place that Pearl was for me. Pearl, I think, was the best. Mia Goth really brought it. And we kind of saw that a little bit in the beginning of Maxine. She has this one scene where she goes to an acting audition, and I think that's the best part of the entire movie in terms of acting. And that's not to say that the rest of the acting was bad. It's just to say that there was nothing else the movie could have done. There was no part that was written to be as big as Pearl was, right? There was no dialogue that was supposed to be as big as the scenes in Pearl. And so I'm not saying like the acting is bad, but if you were expecting like another acting masterpiece from Mia Goth, like, this isn't it. She does fine. Everyone does fine. They just don't bring what I thought they were going to bring, which is okay. I'm a huge Halsey fan, so I was really excited to see her in her like first real performance. She wasn't A Star Is Born, but I don't really consider that a performance because she's like cameoed as herself. But I was excited to see what she would do with this and to see like more of her acting chops. And I was kind of disappointed, but I think I was more disappointed because the dialogue was like a little on the nose. And I was like, okay, she's dead in like 2 minutes. The moment she spoke, I was like, okay, she's gonna die. And I actually missed that she was in the trailer. Her dead body's in the trailer. But yeah, I was really expecting like a little bit more, but like she didn't get a whole lot to play with. She has one scene basically, and then she goes. And so I'm basically arguing that I want to see Halsey in more stuff. I think she's gorgeous. I would love to see her in more stuff. But this movie is, if you're in it for Halsey, yeah, she's barely in it. Don't go see it. Not that you would see it just because of her. That'd be weird. I saw a lot of talk about how people were kind of upset with like how campy it is, and like it kind of made sense because it was supposed to be kind of like that 80s campy horrorness. I thought it was fine. A lot of people in the theater thought it was funny too. I didn't really have a problem with it. It is very different from Pearl and X because there is quite a bit of comedy in this movie, and I thought it was fine. A lot of people didn't seem to online, but it was okay. Overall, I think this movie is a good movie. I don't think it is great, and I think it is definitely the worst of the trilogy, but that doesn't mean it's a bad film. And I think a lot of this is just because of all the expectations that came from X and Pearl. When X came out, it was just like no one knew what movie it was. Pearl, for me at least, like everyone was like, what? This is a prequel. This is 100% different. This is cool. And I feel like they brought all those expectations back into this film. Even though this film was good, it was fine. It just wasn't great. And I think this is a great lesson about expectations and comparison. Without any of those movies, without X and Pearl, I think people would judge this movie just fine. They would have liked it. Yeah, obviously plot wise, it wouldn't make sense with all the Texas stuff in there. But I think it was a good movie. Like, I don't think that there'd be any hate if there wasn't so much time between X and Pearl, and that right now those movies are kind of cult status in my opinion. And there's no way, even if this movie was great, I don't think there's a way to meet those expectations at all. And it's just kind of a lesson, and it's just kind of something you have to learn. And it's hard to not, bring your expectations into movies, especially when they're connected to other ones. but I think it's something that you should always try, especially in the era of studios marketing movies to just try to get people into the theater, and they might lie to you, they might deceive you, and always just try to just go into a movie with an open mind. So that's what I thought. Let me know what your thoughts were. Did you think it was the best? Did you think it was not good at all? Let me know in the comments. Like, subscribe, do all that YouTube stuff. Thank you so much for watching. Appreciate it. Bye.